Hey everyone, Todd here, internalarchitect.com, and in this video you're going to learn about the new normal. And I'm going to talk about 5 reasons why your life will never be the same after cancer. Now before I start, go ahead and hit subscribe below and give me a thumbs up and a like and a share, and that'll help me keep putting out some fun content and keep educating you guys about what it is that it takes as a survivor to start finding peace and finding purpose, everything else that kind of comes along with survivorship that will help motivate you into this next part of your life and this next journey. Yeah, please go ahead and do that. That would be awesome. So the 5 reasons why life will never be the same after cancer. You know, finishing treatment is a huge accomplishment. Going through all this, you spend so much time and so much energy dealing with the diagnosis and the treatment, and then you end up getting a lot of attention through your oncology team and through everything that goes along with it, right? And because of that, you know, you're not really prepared for what is going to happen after cancer. And because cancer has that stigma of like, you may not make it out alive, there's not a lot of focus that is put on that either, because heck, you're just dealing with your own mortality through this entire process. So when it does happen, it's kind of a shock and it's kind of a difficult transition to move into. And that's why they call it a new normal, because there's a lot of pieces and parts that happen and a lot of challenges that come with being a survivor. And that's why they call it the new normal. So what to expect after cancer? You will experience a whole range of emotions that you never really thought you were going to, from anxiety to survivor's guilt and even depression. You're going to go through these. That's just how it is. I went through these as I was kind of working through this entire ocean of madness that was going on as a survivor. I didn't know how to deal with all this, and these are emotions that you will experience, and it is absolutely normal. And that is something that you need to remember, that the emotions that you will experience are normal. So please keep that in mind. You will think these emotions would disappear after cancer, but they don't, and they will never go away. You will continue to experience a lot of the fear and the anxiety and even survivor's guilt when someone passes away, because that's just how it is. I still deal with anxiety and fear every time I feel a weird thing going on with my body. And because I'm a lot more hypersensitive now about what goes on and how my body works, I definitely have my moments where I'm like, could this be it? Could this be the one? It's a tough one to let go of. You won't ever be able to let go of it. The only thing that you can do is learn to live with it, and it's really, really difficult. So keep that in mind, that you are going to have to live with these emotions for the rest of your life. Over time, it will get a little easier, and you will be able to deal with it a lot easier as time goes on. You know, anxiety, it's I think the biggest one for me is the anxiety that I deal with is always there because I have a higher likelihood of cancer coming back. Going on 9 years right now in remission. It'll be 9 years this September, and the longer it goes without me having a reoccurrence, the better off I am. But it still sits in the back of my head back here, the what ifs, you know, what if it does come back? And that's where it's a scary proposition for me. I don't try to think too much about it, but it does sit in the back there, and it does make you wonder. There's a number of things that we'll get into here in a minute that you can start to work on that will help lower that risk a little bit. It's tough to grasp that life won't be the same. Once you end up going through diagnosis and treatment, you end up spending so much energy in just battling that. Everything else that goes on in your life really takes a back seat. So when you spend the time starting to get to know yourself and getting to feel more comfortable in your skin after cancer, you realize that life just isn't going to be the same. That's just how it is. You need to take the time and be patient to allow the emotions to kind of work their way through, to not get discouraged, and to let yourself be okay as a survivor. This is an incredibly challenging thing, and this is where professional help really comes in, because you need to be able to talk to someone about this outside of family. And that's one of the parts I discuss a little bit later in this video also. You will end up feeling guilt because you will end up meeting people through this whole experience that don't make it. And because you did make it, there's that survivor's guilt feeling. I talk deeply about this in another video, which I'll have pop up above here. It's so important to allow time to pass and allow patience to work its way into the entire process, because being a survivor, you are so fortunate in that regard. Because you end up losing friends and colleagues due to cancer, it's only natural to feel guilty that you made it and they didn't. It's a tough one to grasp. I still deal with this today because I do talk to people that are in the middle of their battle, and occasionally they don't make it. It's really frustrating because it can lead into a depressive state, and it's really hard to kind of take that emotion and squash it, but you have to learn to do this, and it's not an easy thing, and that's why professional help really comes into play. And the one thing that you will learn also is you will go through some sadness and a little bit of depression because you will lose the attention from your oncology team. Once you're a survivor, they know that you are on that next level now. You don't need their help anymore. That attention that you get as you're going through treatment starts to go away. You may have met a lot of friends. You may have met some people that really were positive in your life through your oncology team, but because of where they are at in their purpose of helping other patients and you're a survivor, that gets taken back into learning about yourself and learning about these emotions. And that's where it's really important to take the next step in personal development for yourself as a survivor. So the second thing that we're going to talk about is, can cancer return? Yes, cancer can return, but you can do things to help minimize that risk. And there's a lot of factors like the type of cancer and the staging of your cancer that will determine the type, that will determine if the cancer comes back. But the good news is there are things that you can do to help alleviate that. The longer you go without having a reoccurrence, the better off you are. Like I said, I'm going on 9 years in remission, and so my chances of having a reoccurrence really have dropped almost off the chart. But there's always going to be that likelihood that I will have a reoccurrence because of my staging, where I was staged 4B, reoccurring Hodgkin's lymphoma. Because I was staged so advanced, there will always be that off chance that I could have it return or have a secondary cancer return just because of the amount of chemotherapy that I did. The third thing we're going to talk about is Survivorship Care Plan. Now, your oncology team should have helped you put together a plan of what you need to do as a survivor. I didn't have this happen for me, so I have spent a lot of time and energy putting together a survivorship care plan for anyone that has gone through cancer that needs to have a little bit of a boost to help them understand and help them work through the challenges that you will face as a survivor. I will put a little link up here so that you can click on it and see the video. And I did a massive blog post on this, and I would appreciate if you go take a look at it. It's a monster. There's a lot of information and a lot of key elements that you need to know as a survivor as you're starting to go through it. I talk about a lot of good things in this, from the different health effects that you might deal with to health positives through exercise to the different types of stuff you need to talk to about with your oncology team. This is a monster post, and there's a lot of really good information. So take a look at that when you have a chance. Typically, checkups should happen every 3 months or so following treatment, at least up until the first year. And then each year after that, it should drop off in half. So between year 1 and year 2, it should go to every 6 months, and then after year 2, it should go to once a year. And then after 5 years, and 5 years is the magic number, that the possibility of cancer returning really just drops off the chart. At that point is a good time to where you could really almost stop doing any sort of scans or seeing your oncology team and really just start spending that time and focusing on yourself. It's a little tough one because you're not getting the attention from your oncology team, so there's a lot of emotion that you have to deal with through this. But because the Survivorship Care Plan is set forth for you, you are able to understand what needs to happen and kind of some steps that you can take in order to help alleviate a lot of that stress, a lot of that anxiety and that fear that you are experiencing as a new survivor. The one last thing I want to talk about in the Survivorship Care Plan is all these feelings and all these emotions that you are going through are very normal. And you need to know this because it is very normal. This is the new normal, is to understand that you are going to feel a lot of crazy elements and a lot of crazy emotions and a lot of crazy just things that happen as a survivor that you never really thought of before. So these are all normal, and it's okay to deal with these as a survivor. You just got to have that mindset to be able to deal with each challenge that comes up. So the fourth thing that we're going to talk about is the after treatment emotional and physical toll. How do you deal with it? There's a number of ways that you can deal with it. A lot of it is just lifestyle change and knowing that you don't want to have to go through this. The first thing that you need to do is you need to start rebuilding your body. And the best way to do this is to start walking, and just walk every day for 15 to 30 minutes. And by doing this, you start to rebuild muscle. You start to rebuild stamina and endurance. And it doesn't take a lot, but it just takes being disciplined to start the rebuild process. By exercising, and I mean just by going out for these walks over the course of a month to 2 months and over the course of a year, you will feel your body change. You will feel yourself become stronger and more capable physically. And I can't tell you how much that really helps with the mental aspect of rebuilding, because as you rebuild, you are working through all the damage that the chemotherapy has done to you. And by exercising, you are forcing your body to rebuild itself in a good, positive way. The second thing with the after treatment emotional physical toll is you got to start learning about your diet. You got to start learning about what you eat and nutrition, because that is fighting all the damage that the chemotherapy and the radiation that you did through your treatment. It's fighting it from the inside out. Now, I'm not saying you need to go to a straight vegan diet, but you should start thinking about a bit more of a plant-based diet. I have kind of gone that way. I do love meats, I will admit, but I try my best to do certain grains and certain vegetables more so than I do the meats. And I'm really cautious about my serving sizes also. So those are a couple things that I work on, and I've learned to know what works better for my body. Because there are some vegetables that just don't agree with me. There are some meats that just don't agree with me. So I've really spent time learning how this works, how it works for me and how it works in my diet. And this has made such a massive improvement into my overall well-being and my overall stamina and feeling like I am just in a really, really good spot. So take the time to learn about nutrition and learn about your diet, because this is a huge way to really fight all the damage that was done inside your body to begin with all the treatment. The third thing is professional help from a counselor. I've kind of touched on this a little earlier in the video, but I cannot tell you how important getting this professional help, going to see a professional counselor, is so critically important in dealing with all the different emotions and fears and guilt and depression that you are going through or you have gone through. And by talking to someone that isn't a family member, because once you deal with all this emotion that's going on professionally, you can start getting over the hump of what it's going to take to get to the next levels of beating cancer as a survivor. This is one thing that I can't recommend enough to everyone that has gone through cancer. It is such an important aspect to the recovery of being a survivor of cancer. So please, 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 please look into what it's going to take to get professional help through a counselor, through your insurance, whatever it takes. Save money. This is one of the best things that I ever did for myself as a survivor right out of treatment. So I can't tell you enough how to do, to go do this, because it really is that important. The fourth thing here I want to talk about is if you're dealing with some physical aspects from the treatment, like neuropathy or some inflammation or some swelling or something like that, I think it's really important to do some physical therapy. And this is to help deal with the potential issues of all the chemotherapy and radiation that you went through. So please go seek physical therapy if you're feeling neuropathy. And neuropathy is like what feels like needles kind of attacking your nerve endings in your feet and in your hands and even in your legs and just your extremities all around. So yeah, do a little bit of physical therapy. It will go a long way in helping relieve some of that pain and some of that anguish that you might be going through. And the fifth thing I'm going to talk about is family and friend support. Life after cancer will never be the same and never go back to normal because most family and friends will never understand the toll that the chemotherapy and cancer took on your physical self and your soul. Like, it is so damaging in so many ways. So that's why it's really hard to come back and to be able to deal with everything that goes on from your friends and your family, not understanding what you're going through and the emotional toll that it took on you. So please keep that in mind because everything that you go through now is incredibly difficult. The next part of this is that it's important to establish a communication with your friends and family about the needs that you have in order to deal with everything that you went through. You know, patience, not being judged, and just knowing when to back off. These are key communication items that need to be discussed with your friends and family in order to really feel okay with everything and to feel like the support is going to be correct. This is just a couple items, but I just wanted to express those few just so that you have an understanding that you got to set boundaries. You got to set the communication protocol for your family and your friends. And if you don't do that, they might have a tendency to walk all over you, not understanding what your needs are. So you got to be boisterous. And this is really difficult because being able to talk to family about your needs now that you're a survivor is so difficult. So you got to stand up for yourself on this one. And by doing that, will make a huge difference in how your family will react to you and how your friends will treat you as you are a survivor and as you move forward in life. As a survivor, we deal with anxiety and fear every day, and there's no way around it. Over time, we get better at dealing with it, and we learn to focus it. At least I have learned to focus it and make it work for me as I get older and as I keep moving through time. I understand that the anxiety that I experience and the fear that I deal with on a daily basis, I'm able to do something positive with it and keep myself focused. And by having some purpose in my life really has made the biggest difference in how I choose to deal with the anxiety and the fear in every aspect of my life. Yeah, so thank you for listening on this one. I can't tell you how important understanding what the new normal is. There's so many moving parts to what this means, and I will probably continue doing more and more posts about this because it's just there. Like I said, there's just so many moving parts and there's so many pieces that as a survivor you'll never get them all, and I will never be able to explain them all, but you know, each little one I do just makes it a little bit easier for yourself. So again, thank you for watching. I appreciate your time and energy and into watching the videos and everything that I'm doing here with Internal Architect. So again, thank you, and I will see you on the next video.